Three, two, one. Let's jam.
Hey Gurgulides, welcome back to Gurgulon Storytime Review. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a little message below, let us know what story we should read next. In this one, we have quite an interesting story. I'm sure many of you have heard it before, and many of you will hear it here for the first time. It's called No David. I suggested it this time, so you know the rules. That means Draven reads it.
And this is a story by David Shannon. Going into the author's note real quick, just to get a little bit of some information out there, geared more towards the grown-ups here. And David Shannon says, a few years ago, my mother sent me a book I made when I was a little boy. It was called No David, and it was illustrated with drawings of David doing all sorts of things he wasn't supposed to do. The text consisted entirely of the words no and David. They were the only words I knew how to spell. I thought it would be fun to do a remake celebrating those familiar variations of the universal no that we all hear while growing up. And of course, yes is a wonderful word, but yes doesn't keep crayon off the living room wall. David's mom always said, "No, David. No, David. No, David. No. No, no, no. Come back here, David." Is that appropriate? Can they?
I don't know if that's appropriate.
I don't know if
We
they
might
could.
have to blur that one.
Yeah, we might have to censor that. I don't know if they could really draw that.
Editor, timeout, we can censor it here.
Yeah. David, be quiet. Don't play with your food. That's a nice little creation that he got right there, though. The little.
It is. I do want to talk about that one a little bit later, but
Yeah,
so far, so
we'll
good.
we'll come back. It's just that stood out to me real quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough, David. Go to your room. Settle down. Stop that this instant. Put your toys away. Not in the house, David. I said no, David. Davy, come here. Yes, David. I love you. Pretty simple, pretty short and sweet.
It's not the worst story. We've read worse before. You guys know that. But there's a few things I'd want to point out. We could scroll back up.
Yeah, we could go through and kind of dig a little bit deeper page by page after, we've gotten the introductory bit and we're all familiar with the story here.
Yeah, why don't we go back up to that one you had pointed out, the one with him, David playing with his food.
Yes. So I will
Personally,
say the art in here is phenomenal. It's very stylized. I love the different shading and all. It's a very stylized piece. And I like the difference between like the detail in some of the color and shading, but then also the really rough line work on things like around David's nose here, where you can see the contrast between like David's facial features, kind of portraying him as like a animalistic child with the sharp teeth and everything. But then the food here that he's playing with is drawn in such detail and texture that it gives a really good contrast.
yeah, I do agree. The one thing I would say is that do we think the depiction of David is from David's perspective or the parents? Because he seems like just the way he's made is very almost evil. It brings the
Right,
thought
yeah.
of this is a wicked kid.
You know
He's got
that
sharp teeth. He's got like evil features.
that does make me curious here, and I would like to go to the end of the story where David gets reassured that the parents actually do love David. I feel like if it's from the parents' perspective, then that would be a soft and tender moment. If it's from the parents' perspective, then the way that David is drawn in that last frame would align with that more. So I'm interested to compare the way that David was drawn there versus here.
I am looking at the last frame now that you brought it up. and his teeth aren't visible, so it's a little hard to tell. But based off of his actual like eyes and his nose, they're a little bit more softer. I would say he doesn't look as, I guess, possessed. He doesn't
Yeah.
look like he's wicked in nature.
The eyelashes are a touch that were absent from a lot of his other depictions here. Um, Everything is drawn a lot more softer. The lighting on it is very comforting and home feeling. So I do think that the drawings is from the perspective of the parent. The way that the parent would visualize David through his actions.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. But going back up to the food, where he's not supposed to be playing with
Yes.
his food. I don't know about you personally. I wasn't that creative with my food back in the day. I wasn't making little creatures with them on the fork. But this is kind of advanced for David's. How old do we think David is?
I'm not very good at judging age on children. That just
I'd,
comes from my
I'd say
inexperience.
less than 10, probably like more along the like years
I
old,
would
7 years
say
old. I'd
like
say.
kindergarten, first grade range, because we also do have to take in like the diet that we're presented here.
Yeah, he's got broccoli, green beans, chicken, blueberries, uh, carrots, lima beans. It looks like maybe
Oh,
there's
in
like.
this one, yeah. So this is
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the next
yeah,
page.
right. This is the palate of a more developed child. Like this is not
Mhm.
kindergarten, preschool age right here. So I would give a rough estimate of like first grade.
Mhm.
So
I do.
David's behaviors, if we are going with the assumption of first grade, would we say that this is appropriate for a first grade child?
I got a bad one. Maybe I don't know. I personally wasn't drawing on the walls, but there's a few things I like to point out that I don't necessarily think David is in the wrong for. First off, overflowing the bathtub at his age is I feel like someone should have been watching him. That's not
Right?
necessarily his fault for. I mean, even if they looked away for just a second, the water level already being that high, it's kind of that's if he's known for being the person who floods the bathtub, don't put the water level that high.
That does make me question a little bit if the parents are at fault for David's activities. The
I mean that
bathtub in particular, but also, if David had a bit more parental supervision, I don't think that drawing on the walls would have been as big of an issue because they could have stopped it at the root of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, toys in the bathtub, it's fine to get the kids in the bathtub, I guess. But if you don't want them to play in the bathtub, I feel like it's counterintuitive. You're literally filling his tub with toys, telling him not to play with it. I mean, there's like a pool floaty in there, even. That's not just something that's in the bathtub.
Why was David not stopped prior to this frame here with him streaking basically down his neighborhood street?
That's a good point. There's a sequence of events that is portraying here that at some point in time, David left the house, assuming with clothes or without. I'm assuming the because it's directly below the bathtub, he ran out of the bathtub to leave the house.
Which if David
But
were
that means he,
supervised, not even directly in the bath, just a little bit more, then that could have been avoided.
yeah. I mean, it's one thing to let the kid overflow the bath. I mean, that's just maybe you did look away for a little bit too long, but he got out the house. He opened the front door and he's down the street. It's a little irresponsible, if I would say so.
Right. So, do we think that David's actions are justified? Considering his lack of parental supervision, his age, his behaviors, and the way that his parents are treating him.
I wouldn't say justified. I mean, obviously, no kid should be riding on the walls and jumping up and down, causing a mess and a ruckus. But you got to let him have fun sometimes. And obviously, telling him no isn't working. So they're not doing something right. If all he hears is no, David, then maybe tell him a little bit something else. No, David isn't working, as the
Right.
book has portrayed.
There are two more points that I would like to go into before we get into our closing remarks on this. I would like to bring attention to this spread right here, where David had broken the vase and is sitting in the timeout chair in the corner. I
Mhm.
think that you can see a lot of emotion here in David's face, and there's a lot of remorse happening, as if David is sorry for his actions. And I think David could learn if given the proper resources, guidance, and attention. And that's even shown more with the next slide, where David wants to go to his parents for a comforting hug and reassurance that everything is okay.
I mean, I would say the fact that David so welcomes the hug and is so happy to hug his, I'm assuming, mother or father.
I
It
would
looks
I
like
would guess
mother.
mother from that.
It means that maybe it's more of like a absent parent sort of situation. I mean, if he's so welcoming of a hug, but he's acting up the rest of the time, maybe they're just not paying enough attention to him. Maybe they're ignoring him, and he has to do all these things to get attention.
Right. So do we think that this book is appropriate for families?
Well, I guess that depends upon your kid. If your kid's doing all right and not really causing any trouble, I probably wouldn't introduce to them the idea of writing on the walls and overflowing the bathtub and streaking in the street. But if you got a little rascal of your own, it couldn't do harm, I guess. Might might liven them up a little bit more, but if you're having trouble taking care of them, or couldn't hurt.
I do think that the last couple pages really do make a good example that
Mhm.
your parents aren't telling you no to hurt you, and your parents aren't telling you no because they don't love you. So I think it could be a very positive message. I certainly enjoyed the
Yeah,
art. I had fun reading it. I don't think that it is a bad book to introduce to your family.
yeah. Well, with that part out of the way, why don't we say that I think the kids should leave the room and we can just talk to the parents one on one.
Hey, parents. Thanks for
David needs
sticking
to get
around.
spanked. I'm just going to come out and say it. David, they're telling him no, this ain't working. He needs to get spanked. And I know hitting your kids is not right, all right? But he's streaking through the street.
It shouldn't
He's
have gotten
playing
this
baseball in
far.
the house.
It
It
shouldn't have
shouldn't have
gotten
gotten
this
this bad.
far.
This is to a level that is like just not expect. It shouldn't reach this level. Dirty room, no one
This little
cares, right?
fucker
Kids
is
have the
destructive. This little fucker
yes.
is making a mess out of this home. Do you see the quality of this home? Like this
I
should
want
not be.
I want to draw attention to the actual page of him picking in his nose, which I ignored
Yeah,
purposefully
yep. Let's
because it
let's go over to there.
it shows a level of maliciousness where David knows he is not supposed to be picking his nose. And we're so close, it only applies to me that he is in the face of his parent picking his nose, knowing that this is not what he's supposed to do. This is blatantly like, I don't know whose fault this is. It's somebody's fault. But David should not have gotten to this point. Something needed to be done.
Look at that expression on him. That expression is pure maliciousness. There is something evil happening with this kid, and I think that the answer isn't no. I think the answer is exorcism. It's mental institute. It's perhaps adoption.
Look, I'm not going to go that far. I wouldn't go that far personally. But
I don't know if he
just
could
the
be
way
saved.
he's
I don't
looking,
know if he could be saved.
that's a factor. That is a factor. It's just there's something deeply embedded in David. His sharp teeth are like the first instinct. Personally, I agree with you. I think this is from the perspective of the parents. And maybe they didn't draw it, but it's just from the perspective. The fact that he's drawn in such an they're scared of him.
Oh
The
yeah.
way that he's drawn, they are blatantly scared of him. You don't draw your kid with sharp teeth and evil black piercing eyes unless you are terrified of them.
In particular,
So,
the I would like to put out that if your kids are ever getting to this level, you need to take a serious like risk and value assessment. This frame here, look at this vase, that horse on it. This thing is obviously either like passed down or thrifted. It's vintage. They don't make anything like that. This coffee table is phenomenal. The grandfather clock in the back. This is obviously like a nice home. People love living here. And David broke it, shattered. And it's not like it just broke in half. This is in pieces. You cannot fix this. You cannot find another one of this. Is raising this devil child worth the cost of that vase? Seriously consider.
I just I'd also, if we could scroll back up, if we could flip
Mm-hmm.
back to the page of his bedroom where they say put your toys
Yep.
away. This kid, look, I had toys when I was a kid. I think we all did, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't get your toys, kids, but if his room is this messy and you're giving him toys, like this is spoiled. This kid shouldn't be having the amount of toys that he has where they're just covering the floor. If he's not picking them up, take them away. Why does he need to have a mess in his room?
I'd also like to say that that could be another reason of like his actual like he's conscious of his maliciousness. He could be well occupied with everything that he has here and yet chooses to do destructive acts instead of utilizing these things that the parents have like graciously gifted to him.
I I can only assume. I mean, I maybe I haven't observed the book well enough, but this TV is in his room,
Mhm.
meaning that he fully could have watched the TV or he could have played with his toys. But before he made either of those decisions, the mess came first. There has to be some sort of thing that's done about this. Maybe just toys in a different room. Maybe don't put a TV in his room. I mean, if he, it's just absurd.
This is a kid that has the world and will not be happy until it is destroyed under his fingers.
That's all I have to say. I couldn't
Yep.
agree more.
I think that is
Uh,
a good note
I,
to close it off on. Do you want to lead us off with your rating? Not of David,
I
because
would
we know
give
that's on the
no,
low
no.
end, but of the book.
We don't rate children here. David, personally, horrible kid. But the book itself, no David. Depending upon how it's used, this remember, every book is used in different ways. I could rate it 6.5, reasonably. Depending upon how bad your kid is, I could see it going up a few levels, but it all depends upon your situation. What about you?
I kind of agree with some of your remarks. The thing that stands out to me a lot is the art, especially coming from like how we discussed the perspective of the parent. I think the art makes it bump up to around like a 7. The its score is lowered because I'm fearful that there are certain parents and families that would relate a little bit too heavily to the book, and I wouldn't want to really have someone go through that because it could touch close to home. But overall, charming art style, pretty good story, a solid 7.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable. Well, thank you all so much for reviewing this book with us. Remember, leave a comment down below what you think we should read next. Also, don't be afraid to hit the like button, and we're always welcoming more subscribers. We'll see y'all next time. Remember to keep reading books and get your kids to read them too.
Bye bye.